I'm Cody with Hornporn Industries, and today we're going to go over how to fletch arrows like a pro. We're going to be using Gold Tip XXX Pros, AAE Max Hunter vanes, Pro Point 250 grain points, the Gold Tip bushing, along with the Gold Tip AccuNock. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the shafts. What I like to do is I like to cut the shafts evenly off of the front as well as the back. The reason that we do this is because the center part of the arrow is the straightest. The other reason is by cutting that off, we can use the arrow squaring tool to get the premium product out of the arrow. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to square the shafts with an ASD tool, which stands for Arrow Squaring Device. It's made by G5. So the ASD tool has two ends. There's a carbon end, which is what we're going to be using today. There's also an aluminum cutting carbide on the other end if you flip it over. That's what you're going to want to use on your aluminum shafts and any components such as bushings that you're going to be squaring up. So we've cleaned and squared the end of the shaft. The next thing that we're going to do is take a little bit of alcohol and a Q-tip, and we're going to clean out the inside of the shaft, any of the dirt, debris that we have that's inside since we've made our cuts. Make sure that that and your bushing are nice and clean before you install them. Then we're going to install the points. We're going to be using Pro Points in the 250 grain weight. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to use just a standard Scotch-Brite pad that you can get at pretty much any local grocery store to basically scruff up the surface of the carbon and create a good surface for adhesion for your vanes. Once we have that done, we're going to use just standard alcohol, again, that you can find at most of your local stores in order to clean off any dirt, oil, grime that's on the shaft itself. You don't have to be worried about anything other than the area that you're going to actually be fletching, and you're just going to basically squeeze your fingers together and then pull it up and down the shaft for whatever area is going to cover your fletchings. So the next step we're going to do is just grab a normal paper towel. We're going to put just 1 or 2 little drops of the alcohol into the rag, and then we're basically going to rub that while we're rotating the shaft back and forth in our hand over where we roughed it up with the Scotch-Brite pad. And basically once you kind of get that squeaking sound, it lets you know that the shaft is clean. And then we're just going to let that air dry before we start applying the fletchings. We're going to insert the arrow into the fletching jig. There's normally a little knock indexing on one side of the knock. I always like to start with that first just so that I have a clean reference. And you're going to make sure that your fletching jig is in the start position. So we're going to insert that into the jig. Next thing we're going to do is grab our clamp and our fletching. And I already have a mark on the jig where I want my fletching to go. So I'm going to insert it into the clamp using the mark that I already have. This is just a preset mark for me. It allows me to have the fletching as far back on the shaft as I can get it, which gives it the maximum amount of leverage, but it isn't having any contact in my face, so I don't have any inconsistency with it touching me. Next thing that we're going to do is clean the base of the vane off with the alcohol. Some companies say that you don't need to do this. I do this as an extra step, just as a precaution for me. If I have any dirt, oil, anything off of my fingers, it's not going to hurt anything to clean that off. Just a little bit, doesn't have to have a whole lot. We're going to use Fletch Type Platinum The reason I like this glue is it's kind of more of a soft rubbery cement versus a hard, brittle, super glue type. It does take a little bit longer to dry. You're probably going to have to wait 15 minutes or so per fletching for this. If you want to use super glue or something, that's fine. It does speed the fletching process up a little bit. The main thing to consider here is you want it to be nice and clean, one steady bead. You don't have to put a ton on there and just have it all gooped up all over the place. So you're just going to start with one steady small bead and just run that cleanly down the base, making sure that you don't miss anything, and that it's just a steady stream as you go. Have that on there. You're just going to flip that over onto the jig. Make sure that the base is in contact. And then just start with the tail end of the base down and then slowly press it forward. And make sure it gets a good solid adhesion with the shaft. All the fletchings are on, everything is dried. So the last step that I like to take is to put a little bit of glue on the front and back of each fletching just to create a little bit of ramp so that if you shoot through the target or anything like that, it prevents the vein from peeling up. So you're just going to put a little bit in the front and a little bit in the back of each one, just kind of keep everything nice and tight and sealed up. That's all you need. I'm Cody with Horn Porn Industries. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for joining me today.